How's it going, Son of Ice and Fire fans? It's Grant from Yeecats Miniatures, bringing you the next episode of our faction overview series, fresh and brand new for Season 6. And actually, when we talk about brand new, this is properly brand new. This is Brotherhood Without Banners. And I'm joined by my good friend, Teemu Kujala. How's it going, Teemu?
It's going great. It's a Friday night.
Friday night, mate. It's time to get this done quickly so we can go out and party, right?
Something like that.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess first and foremost, as a brand new faction overview, I think we need to sort of basically introduce you, because obviously your first time on the channel as well. Obviously, you've got your blog, 25 years of minis, but just quickly, obviously you're a massive part of the building of the Finnish community for this game. You have been for a long time. Do you want to just do a quick intro on who you are and what you do?
Sure, thank you, and thanks for having me. Yeah, the name of my blog is badly out of date. It should be something like 37 years of minis and still going. Yeah, I'm a long-time wargamer with a typical background, but since I started playing Song, I wasn't part of the Kickstarter, but me and my friend bought the original 2 faction starter sets maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time I was playing like a lot of different games, like 20 different games, which was obviously too much. And I think after the first year I was so hooked with Song that it's been hundreds of games ever since. And it's the best game I've ever played. I mean, war game with miniatures. And I played for more than 35 years, so that's saying something. Obviously, I'm from Finland, living here in the Helsinki region, and we have an awesome club here in Helsinki with some 250 members. So it's a great place to find new players for Song and other games, and it's always easy to get someone to play with. So good times.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm the same. I've been playing games for forever, and Song, I don't know, we spoke a little bit before we went live with this recording that for us the IP is huge, and I think that really is such a draw, and I think that's what Season 6 has done for the game, is really just, I guess, invigorate that fluff style of gaming.
Sure. What I think is one of the strongest suits for Song is that I obviously recruited a lot of people. I've run dozens and dozens of demo games. I'm still doing that. But then when people, they start playing and they really fall in love with the game, they start introducing it to their friends. And for example, we have one group of people that started to play Song, and they knew each other from playing the card game for Game of Thrones, and then they all migrated to Song. So yeah, a lot of people know this IP, and the game is great. So
yeah,
easy.
Awesome. Okay. Obviously, the reason that I sort of reached out to you is not only you're quite a big community member, is also the fact that you're the top-rated Brotherhood player for the Invitational, Carlo's Invitational in the UK that happened just last month. So massive congratulations for that finish, man. You must be really proud of that.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised. I didn't expect to do that well. But then again, we have some pretty tough players here in Finland, and so I was practicing with them. I was losing quite a bit, so I was feeling like, God damn, how will I do in the invitationals? And I was totally jaw-struck when after 3 rounds of the actual invitational on Saturday, I was actually leading the bloody tournament. And then on the 4th round, I met Big Guy, the #1 rated player in the world. So I didn't quite get into the top 8 bracket, which actually was a relief. and I was extremely happy with my final position. I think it was 18th on the Swiss. So I think I did well, and of course, I guess playing Brotherhood also helped.
Yeah. Well, okay then. Let's get stuck into Brotherhood, I guess then. So. Cool. So I guess the first question that we really need to get into, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go a little bit. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So How do you feel that Season 6 has been to Brotherhood?
Well, Brotherhood has excellent attachments, and I guess there was a lot of like speculation that will they keep the 1 free attachment points they already had, and they did. So they are now one of the few factions that are still sort of able to use, for example, Glory Seekers on their cavalry units, and the Knights are more or less the best unit they have. So I think that's a really strong thing for them going on still. So 5 free attachment points, and they also have pretty good 2-point attachments. So I would say it's no problem whatsoever to spend those 5 points.
Awesome. So in your opinion then, what is the Brotherhood faction identity and what is their play style? What do they play well into? What's their strengths? What's their weaknesses?
That's one of the things I like about the Song of Ice and Fire, is that I think Simon has really excelled in sort of designing the rules for each faction and unit and commander so that it really gives out a nice flavor. And so what is the flavor for Brotherhood? The first thing that comes to mind is that they are like, they are ambushing faction. And doesn't mean that they would have plenty of the rule ambush, but they have a lot of cards and also units. I think the Archers are a good example with this specific 3-inch maneuver they have, and the rule for shooting to the flanks or rear, and they get these bonuses. So they are that kind of a faction that they kind of want to surprise you. The enemy, I mean. Of course, Beric having assault orders and so forth. So that's the identity, at least that is in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's really, and you got to give it to Simon there. They've hit that nail bang on, because that's what this army should be, right? Is that ambushing and catching people off guard. That's basically what the Brotherhood are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, it is also the mix of peasants, like the lowliest guys from the fields who've been suffering in the hands of Lannisters and Cleganes and what have you. And then you have the knights who are like a, noble sons and that kind of. So it's also a mix of different sort of classes in the society, which is also making an interesting flavor to it. And of course, they are very, very synergetic, because when the knight drop rank from the enemy, they heal infantry. So it's also the knights are sort of helping the poor peasants, and then again, the peasants make all other units better with their abilities of gang up and disrupt. So I think a really great design. Of course, maybe a bit too powerful, as we'll probably find out today. But I just love the design.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. And I've really been looking forward to getting this faction overview over the line. So I guess for newer players so if someone's brand new, just starting into the game, they're watching these faction overview series, trying to work out which faction is for them. Why should they choose Brotherhood over all the other factions?
Brotherhood is definitely a forgiving faction, because you have so much healing that if you make a mistake, then you can recover from it. I think same is valid for Baratheons, but not for Targaryens. So definitely a forgiving faction. And you can, I think also what many people like, and why many people also here in Finland were drawn to it, because they already had Stark and Baratheon units, and I have both of those armies. So it was like, okay, I just need to buy a starter and 2 more boxes, and I have everything. Like, great variety, great choice of units. And of course, big part of the game as a whole is the list building. So yeah, many good reasons to start with this faction. Yeah. And the miniatures are beautiful too.
The miniatures are stunning. We say it every single time a new box comes out, but every single box that is released for this game it's just better than the last box. And yeah, the Brotherhood sculpts are phenomenal. I had a conversation with a friend today, and we were speaking about the Catelyn sculpt. It's just incredible. It's just so full of character. I think what you said there as well is really important, that people is been able to take, Stark units and Baratheon units. Stark very much an aggressive faction. Baratheon's very much a defensive faction. So it lets you play the sort of play style you want to play, really, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I guess it is showing it is the highest ranked faction because it has so much choice. And Stark on its own, they don't have too many good units, but they have a couple of ones that are really, really good. And yes, we can take one of them. Funny thing about my army for Brotherhood was I had painted the whole army before they were released. And how was this possible is that I had certain miniatures lying around for a couple of years already that would fit perfectly the style, and I started painting those. So eventually I kind of only needed to get the characters to be able to show to my opponents that who's who. And one of my friends bought 2 starters, so I got those characters from him, and then I just bought the Heroes box 1, and everything else is proxy. But it's really what you see is what you get. But
awesome.
I've been struggling because the actual miniatures are so nice, so I would love to get them, but I already have a painted army.
Yeah, nice, cool. Okay, well, let's get stuck into the faction and get stuck in some of these units. So,
Sure.
First up on screen, we have the Peasant Levy. So these are a 4-point unit. They have a 5-inch move. They have the Spear Attack ability, which is a 6/4/3 attack profile, hitting on 5. So not a great offensive stat there, but they give a 6+ armor save and a 6+ morale. Again, not a great defensive profile, but the 6+ morale is quite good. But this is when they come into their own, right? So the Disrupt, enemies engaged with this unit suffer -1 to hit. They have Gang Up, so all friendly units' melee attacks gain +1 to hit and +1 attack die on enemies that are engaged with this unit and at least one other friendly unit. So an absolutely stunning 4-point unit, in my opinion, Teemu. But you're the faction expert, mate. You tell me what you think.
This is such a tactical unit because it has so many functions. It is age-old wisdom that you don't want to leave a unit standing on an objective that costs more than 5 points. Well, here you have a 4-point unit, even better. So, it's easy to build up an 8 activation list. And of course, 2-list format, maybe one is with more. I typically have 2 of them in one list and maybe 0 in the other, which is more elite. But I think they really show their strength in any Brotherhood list, because if you're running knights, if you're running land cavalry, if you're running Kingsman, as you usually are with Beric, and the enemy makes the mistake of charging at the peasants, then they are stuck there, and then you can go in with your hard-hitting unit, hitting with 2+, 8 attacks from the knights, 8 attacks from Kingsman, 10 attacks from a land cav. It's great, good, and at the same time, the peasants are defending for all of the units that are involved in the combat. So I think this unit really is the unit in this faction, and it has so many uses. And what I think is, of course, picked up armor save, so watch out shooting. But then I think these guys can take on almost any elite combat units. Of course, they don't need to even strike at the enemy. They can just retreat and stay on the objective, just stay there, survive long enough so that your elite cavalry or somebody else can come in and kill the enemy.
Yeah, I think. So, yeah, I think that you're spot on. I think the thing is, when these were first released, the brain said, well, let's let's go for them. That's the cheap rubbish unit. Let's get rid of them first. Then I'll concentrate on the stuff that looks scary, like the knight and the Baratheon units and stuff. But the thing is, if you get stuck on these and there are attachments that make it even harder to get rid of them, it makes the elite units just double elite.
Absolutely. And the best time I ever had when the enemy lands cavalry charges these guys, I'm like, yes, now I'm winning the game. Thank you for doing that. And I've now with the season 6 putting Kendry there with resilience and other defensive abilities, these guys just won't die with resilience. And it's the Tarbit of the century.
So there we go then. Peasant Levy getting the double thumbs up from Teemu.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Next up, we have another starter box unit. We have the Men-at-Arms, which for some reason still says Man-at-Arms at the card. I wish Simon would get on top of that and get that changed, because that's making me OCD flag.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a 6-point unit. It has a movement of 5. It comes with Brotherhood Armaments attack ability, which is a melee attacker profile, which is 7/6/4 depreciation with a 4+ to hit, which isn't great, but it will get better as we'll see later on. They get a 4+ armor save and a 6+ morale, which is very good for a defensive profile. And they come with the ability newly revamped ambush. So enemies this unit successfully charges in the flank or rear become panicked, vulnerable, and weakened. So the addition now for the 3rd token for that new season 6 rule. And the Brotherhood Armaments attack ability comes a critical blow as standard, with the additional benefit that if your opponent does not control the crowns, this attack gains +1 to hit and sundering. So if your opponent doesn't control the crowns, you're getting a critical blow, sundering, and you're hitting on 3s now. So obviously that is why that 4+ hit isn't too bad, as long as you can play around the zone control side of stuff. This isn't the first time we'll see this in Brotherhood either. So Men-at-Arms, Teemu, what are we saying?
Yeah, looking at the ranking in stats, they have a negative elo.
Mm-hmm.
I like them.
Yeah.
And especially I play Caitlyn quite a lot of them to get that extra charge, especially if you get it into the flank.
Yeah.
And the enemy doesn't have the crowns. Of course, keeping the enemy away from the crowns is such a big thing for this faction.
Yeah.
At the same time, it is a bit of a weakness too if enemy has the crowns.
Yeah.
For example, Joffrey NCU. But yeah, I think they have potential, but like in a separated bubble as a 6-point unit, are they awesome? No. But they're decent, and if your opponent doesn't have the crowns, they are definitely a good 6-point unit. But without that bonus, they're not. So there is this kind of a knife's edge question that who has the crowns.
Yeah. Do you think ambush comes much into play for the Men-at-Arms?
Infantry with 5-inch move, no.
Yeah.
Never does.
Yeah.
But it could, and that's why I play Caitlyn with them. That once again, I'll sort of make a bait with the peasants, and quite easily the enemy can cut off a rank from the peasants, and then Caitlyn, for example, in this unit gets a charge with her Vengeance card, and then maybe you get to the flank, and then it gets bad for your opponents once again, because then it will be 8 attacks potentially hitting at 2+ with critical blow and sundering, and that's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And of course, intimidating presence from Caitlyn.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I think it needs this kind of combos to work well. But if you don't know their role, then it's not a very good unit.
Definitely. Okay. Cool. Okay, let's move on to the Brotherhood Archers. So that's another 6-point unit. They've got a 6-inch move. They've got the long range hidden shot, which is a 7/6/4 attack profile hitting on 3s. The short sword for melee, which is a 5/4/3 hitting on a 5+. They have that 6+ armor save and a 6+ morale that we saw on the Peasant Levy. And they come with this order. Deceitful Reposition, which is a brand new order for these guys. So at the start of an enemy turn, if no enemies are within short range, this unit performs a 3-inch maneuver action, which is really big, that maneuver. And just a hidden shot attack ability comes with ignores units and terrain when determining line of sight. And when attacking enemies in the flank or rear, this attack gains precision and vicious. So lots of little bits and pieces. It feels like a little bit of a mini chessboard for the Brotherhood Archers.
This is a high-tech unit. This is a high ceiling unit. The more I play it, the more I like it. Currently, it's the lowest ranked Brotherhood unit, but I don't agree with that assessment. I think they are clearly better than the Men-at-Arms. But of course, it is a fragile unit if you don't know once again what you're doing with it. If you put them on too much of a risk, then they will die. Of course, also they probably don't easily win a shooting duel unless they can escape with this maneuver of theirs. A smart player moves a cavalry unit to within shot of them to stop them to getting this extra movement. But yeah, like I said, the more I play with these guys, the more uses I find for them. In the Finnish Nationals recently, I played Caitlyn in them because with her Vengeance card, she can also shoot and get her into a position to shoot in the flank, starts killing stuff, especially units with not so good morale. So getting a -3 panic test is a pretty good one. I also see them being very, very good in certain game modes. Dance with Dragons is my favorite because first round they can march 12-inch pivot and already take maybe one of the flank objectives, and they still haven't used that 3-inch maneuver. So many times I've escaped with the token with these guys, and they can still contribute to the game by shooting. So extremely good unit for that game mode. Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah,
but takes a bit of skill to play them right.
That's really nice. That's really sneaky. Do you know what? That's what I really enjoy about these faction overviews, is talking to people and they're pointing out. Obviously, you guys have obviously played Brotherhood a lot. You've played Brotherhood a lot more than I have, and yeah, that little march up, grab the token, and then start shifting back slowly. That could be irritating. That could be really irritating.
Yeah, and of course, it creates a situation that you already have one of the 3 objectives, and then if you can grab the other one, then your opponent has a problem. They need to come at you, and of course, you have a great response. Throw some of the peasants up front, and then if they make this mistake of charging them, then it's all good.
Yeah. Well, and as well, I think a lot of people are drawn to Brotherhood because of this unit, because of the sculpts. The sculpts are really nice with the tree stumps and the bows. They look really, we mentioned earlier, Games Workshop, they really look wood elfy almost. It's really nice.
Yeah. My movement trays have trees on them so that they are really, ambushing from the woods.
That's nice, mate. Really nice. I do love a good hobby project. Okay, cool. So for a sneaky unit into a heavy hitting unit, so up on screen now, with the Brotherhood Knight, so we have an 8-point unit, so it's the most costly unit that a brother can bring. They have a 5-inch move. They have the Knightly Armaments attack ability, which is a 7/5 attack profile, hitting on a 3+. They have a 3+ armor save, a 5+ morale, so a really nice defensive profile there. They have the cavalry rule. I'm going to read this once. We're going to see it again on some of the other cards, so I'm not going to read it every single time, but I'll read it just once for new people that are tuning in. So basically, each model in this unit has 3 wounds, and at the start of this unit's activation, it may perform 1 maneuver action. The Knightly Armaments ability is your melee attack, so that comes with Sundering Basics. You always got Sundering, and if your opponent does not control the crowns, this attack may re-roll any attack dice, which is really nice ability. And Rally the Small Folk. So after this unit completes a melee attack, if this attack destroys an enemy rank, target 1 friendly infantry unit in long range, they restore 2 wounds. So that's sort of like a weird version of Rally Cry, but I've seen
exactly.
I've seen loads of armies run with 2 units of these, because he's such a nice looking unit, a really heavy hitting unit, especially if you can deny the crowns. But you give us your rundown on this unit.
Yeah, I had 2 of them in my invitational list.
Oh, nice.
2, and of course, now maybe you more rarely see 2 units because of season 6 attachments, but luckily Brotherhood still has the 1 free attachment point, which can be used for neutrals. So these guys with the Glory Seeker, they are really, really hard to kill. I have had many games where 3 enemy units have been fighting this 1 unit, and still in some cases they managed to survive and hit at least one of the enemy units, and so. But the synergies are huge. Think of this, for example. You have the peasants, maybe with Gendry, so resilience, engaged with a tough enemy unit. Then in come the knights. Maybe they are charging where the peasants are, even better, with the gang up, or at least they are 12 inches away. So that when they destroy a rank, and they typically do with this attack profile, you heal 2 of those resilient peasants. And what else? You have the Thoros NCU, so you destroy the rank, you get a token for Thoros. So eventually, with that 1 attack destroying a single rank from the enemy, you kind of gained 3 points of healing, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And that is such a good synergy that after testing different kinds of lists, it was quite obvious that it was a good idea to have 2 of them in one of the lists, even if you could have Tully Cavaliers. I actually played not too much of Tully Cavaliers with Brotherhood because these guys are so good.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to Lance Cavalry a little bit later on, but I think this is by far and clearly the best grinding heavy cavalry unit, because typically they keep on re-rolling, they keep on healing other units, they keep on surviving, and having that Glory Seeker there. Of course, there's also that stubborn tenacity, giving out a wound when you typically do when you pass your moral test. So
yeah,
totally awesome unit.
Yeah. I've had a couple of friends that play Brotherhood, and they're the same thing, because as a Stark player, it's Tully Cavaliers are quite big as a unit for us. They're really aggressive, heavy hitting, large cavalry unit. But when I said to my friends, like, how comes you're not running Tully Cavaliers? He's like, I just think the Brotherhood Knights are better. How can they be? But I played them a couple of times, and really, you mentioned it there, it's that grind. It's the fact they can keep grinding at a heavier level than Tully Cavaliers can.
Yes.
Which is awesome. And to be fair,
with the amount of healing you have, for example, I think the first reaction people had to Ravel Smallwood, one of the NCUs, like, what? Do we want to burn our cards to heal 2 wounds? But healing 2 wounds on an armor 3 unit is quite valuable. And I think, once again, it is a trap for the enemy to engage with these guys, just as it is with the peasants, because the Brotherhood player can heal them up, and that's another reason why they will win the grind.
Yeah, and that's incredible, right? That is what we want from our game. Is we want our in-faction choices to be the best choice for that point level, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Okay, cool. So that is it for the Brotherhood unit. So before we recorded, we obviously spoke online a little bit, and we discussed. Obviously, we can't go through all of the Stark units, all the Baratheon units, because we'll be all night. As much as I enjoy talking to you, I'm sure you don't be sitting here for like another 4 hours talking about House Stark and House Baratheon. So I said to you, give me 4 units for each faction that you want to go over that you think are the most impactful for Brotherhood. So you've given me 4. You gave me 5 Baratheon and 4 Stark. So we're going to go over them now as well.
Sure.
So ordinarily, what I would do in these overviews, I'll read the card out and then ask you your opinion. I don't need to read the card for these guys. What we'll do is I'll just introduce the unit, and then let you basically tell me how they affect the gameplay of Brotherhood, right? So
Sure.
we'll start with the best faction. Let's start with House Stark. And we're going to go with Umber Berserkers. So these guys are an incredible 6-point unit in Starks. What do we think about using them in Brotherhood, and what sort of synergies have we got here?
Well, I think they are at 6 point. They are better than the Brotherhood own melee infantry unit because of speed and of course, well, the abilities that Berserkers have. What they are obviously missing is Sundering. But, well, it's always been said that Starks need to hang on just alive and keep on smacking the enemy at the face. And of course, Brotherhood is much better at keeping the units alive than Starks.
Yeah.
So that's why I think Berserkers hanging on the last rank, being extremely aggressive at that point. Once again, maybe in the same melee with Peasants. So 9 attacks hitting at 2+. Who cares about weaken tokens at that point?
Yeah.
So we are really good at keeping them alive, which means they are extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's the obvious game plan here. And speed 6 is always good. Movement wins the games.
Yeah. And also, I mean, is there anything more terrifying than Umber Berserkers running out of a forest at you? I don't think there is.
No, probably not. Maybe dragons.
Oh yeah, dragons. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
And we have, until the others come out. But until that, we can agree. Berserkers and dragons.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. Next up were the House Mormont She-Bears. So how are these guys affecting your list building in Brotherhood?
I think this was like one of the first obvious thing that people thought with Beric, because once again, if you own the crowns, or even if you don't, Beric will heal the unit every time they pass a moral test, and these ladies have a war cry. So giving the enemy a token, healing yourself 1 or 2, I think it's a pretty good value. And I think then again, the same logic as we spoke just a second ago regarding the Berserkers, these ladies also get better when they have fewer ranks. They hit better and so forth. So the same logic, we can keep them alive. And of course, making an extra moral test, once again, heals with Beric. And of course, we also have 4 cards in our deck where you make a moral test, which again heals more.
So
with Beric specifically.
Yeah. So is it a Beric Commander attachment? Is what you
Beric,
do? Yeah?
Beric Commander, or if one plays Thoros Commander or Thoros 2-point attachment, which have this faith mechanic as well, then of course that feeds the fate tokens.
Awesome. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Then next up we have more of a heavy hitting unit, the House Umber Greataxes. So yeah, the box a bit more costly point unit, well 7-point unit now rather than 6. But what do we think about these guys?
These are sort of a specific tool. If you'll be facing, let's say, Lannisters or Baratheons or any enemy with, or even Starks, because then you'll be facing Tully Cavaliers for sure. So if you're going to be facing something with heavy armor and these are your can openers, and what else is there is that I would definitely play them with Caitlyn. Why? They have Vicious and they give out a panic when they charge. And they are more durable unit than some other units. So Caitlyn's horrific visage will keep on working because these guys don't die that fast. But yeah, I won a few games with these, getting an extra charge or getting an extra attack with Caitlyn's cards, lash out, and so forth. So, but this is a specific tech beast. for a Caitlyn list.
Awesome. So then we have our last and heavy hitting unit, and we always spoke about these, but in some of the rest of the conversation we've been having, that's the House Tully Cavaliers. So obviously another 8-point heavy cav unit. But I get a moment ago you alluded to you wanted to talk about Lance Cavalry. Is this the cavalry unit you're talking about?
This is one of the two options. Of course, we have Highgarden Riders from Baratheons, only at 6 points. I think Tully Cavaliers are okay for any of the commanders because it creates a situation with the rally banner that, once again, Beric hanging nearby would heal a lot from a moral test, easily 3 wounds. And I think that kind of has, it's kind of like a psychological weapon that, oh my gosh, I hit the enemy, made a couple of wounds, they pass the panic test, they heal up 3 wounds. That can be quite demoralizing for your opponent. And that's what Tully Cavaliers give to the list. Obviously, every Lance Cavalry sort of is a threat. It is a great finishing unit. In this case, they can of course survive. They can't grind in a way that our own knights can, because it will only be 5 attacks and no rerolls. But yeah, of course they are a finishing unit. They are a unit that can hold a flank easily. And we were, when we were building lists for the invitationals, and I was asking for comments from my mates, and one feedback was that you always need to have a unit that can take a charge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you let your enemy charge your cavalry, you haven't played that well, I guess. But yes, they can certainly take a charge, and then we do have sudden retreat in our basic deck, so that can be a trap once again. The enemy attacks or charges, I mean, then being activated, the Tully Cavaliers don't take a heavy hit from that. Probably you retreat and then you charge somewhere else with them. Maybe then first in come the peasants, and then you charge in with your lance cavalry, getting 10 attacks with hitting on 2+. So that's a pretty bad trap to go into.
It's a bad place to be standing in front of Tully Cavaliers about to hit you with 10 dice and 2s. Oof.
Exactly, in the flank.
Yeah. So with Tully Cavaliers, obviously in Starks, they've got this really, like, a lot of people don't like them in Starks, but I think with Starks the problem is the package they come with is a little bit been addressed now with Berserker tactics being toned down a touch, but obviously Winterfell Guardians, obviously assault orders and that sort of stuff in the tactics deck. But do you think that they can ever hit that lofty height in Brotherhood, or do they just serve a different role in Brotherhood Without Banners?
Well, I think they are the best rated unit in the whole game, so obviously they are not bad in Baratheon either, but I really like to play Brotherhood with 8 activations, and never leave home without your own knights.
Mm-hmm.
Then you really can't take another 8-point unit unless you're then running only peasants, the rest of your army. But that's why I see the Riders of Highgarden being a really good option as your lance cav. And well, let's continue on then when we show the card on the screen. But yeah, well, I think you can't really go badly wrong with Tully Cavaliers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest question is that, let's say if you're playing Beric Commander, would you take Tully Cavaliers or Kingsmen with Beric?
Yeah.
I think the answer is very easy to that.
Yeah.
And I rather play the other Lance Cavalry with Caitlyn, and we'll come back to that. So that's why I haven't used these guys that much, even if they are the best unit in the game.
Yeah,
but it's about the list as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Well, you've mentioned them. I think it's important now to advise all viewers at home to put sunglasses on because it's about to get a lot brighter. We've got the Riders of Highgarden with a nice bright
Indeed.
yellow Baratheon screen. So just my opinion, I've spoken to Belisarius about Baratheons and we spoke at length about Riders of Highgarden. So just completely irrelevant, unrelated to Brotherhood, I feel this is how the Lance rule should work for every cavalry unit. I think it really pushes you to play them like a Lance cavalry unit. I think Simon, the change they made on this edition when they changed the Riders of Highgarden, they got this so spot on, and I was hoping they were going to roll it out to every Lance cavalry unit so that people play Lance cavalry units like Lance cavalry and don't just let them grind it out. But that's just me gushing about Riders of Highgarden. How are they in Brotherhood?
They're excellent, and the perfect combination is that you play Caitlyn Commander, you aim for 8 activations, you already have your own knights, and you have some peasants there as well. And then, when it's time to finish a unit, maybe they've been grinding a little while with one of your units. Maybe your bowman or whoever you have for shooting has already shot at the enemy, and then these guys come in. And what is the best card in Caitlyn's cards for these guys? It's the price of failure. You automatically hit 9 times with Sundering.
Yeah.
And that is deadly. That is really deadly. Or if the peasants are already there, it's 10 hits. Thundering, automatic, everything hits. Yeah. And I've lost counting. I've stopped counting how many units I've finished with that combination.
Yeah.
And then you just don't roll a 1 for your charge.
That's a promise I can't make. I'll try to, but it gets me every time.
And of course, if you didn't kill the unit, and maybe you start the next round, and there's only a couple of wounds left, and you get the price for failure, also hitting 5 times with Sundering, not too bad. So, and of course, just the cherry on top, if you have what's the card where you don't get the quest card we have, but the Ream Remains card.
Yeah.
And that is active, so you can't take tokens. It's pretty nice to play Price of Failure without the risk of getting those tokens. So once again, huge synergies in the cards. But yeah, 8 activations, Caitlyn list. Don't leave home without the lance.
Yeah, nice. Then next up, you mentioned them again before, the Kingsmen. I love these guys in Baratheons, but I think, strangely, I feel like they've got a better home in Brotherhood than they do Baratheons.
That is true. The thing is that I played also Baratheons, and my experience with the Kingsmen was that an expensive unit, infantry unit, 5 speed, you typically hit once per round, and you don't probably attack round 1 at all. Maybe you start attacking from round 2, and that's a big investment for only one attack per round, or maybe 4 attacks in the whole game. But with Beric, you have assault orders, and that makes all the difference. I guess. Well, of course, Caitlyn also has an extra attack card, so they would work with both commanders. But I guess the craziest combo is with Beric. Once again, all that healing Beric gives, and also to the last tokens are moral tests. If you own the crowns at that point, you take 1 wound for to the last, and you heal 2 more. So you immediately go to 3 when you pass your to the last test. So Beric is the best thing keeping these guys alive, and these guys are the best thing keeping Beric alive, and that's just a crazy good combo. I think it's a bit too good a combo. Somebody in the invitationals said to me that I am part of the problem. Well, I started playing these guys before they were even launched, and yes, I know they are really hard, but it is Simon's job to balance the game, and of course we can play with the toys we have. But yeah, it's a bit too good. But then again, it also takes a bit of a learning. In the Finnish Nationals a couple of weeks back, I was playing against Boltons, and I played a bit too aggressively with these guys. Because I had the assault orders in my hand, I charged in on round 1, hitting their bowman or something, and then they started the next round and they came at me, and there was corpse pile nearby. There was intimidating presence, so -2 to my moral tests, and these guys died on round 2. Both to the last gone because I kept failing those moral tests, and I think for 2 minutes I just sat there totally quiet, like, what the hell just happened?
Give me back my king.
How do I go on from this? These guys died.
Yeah.
This must be against the rules or something. They can't die. That's not allowed.
Let's put them back and pretend.
You're cheating. These guys are not supposed to die. But yes, they can die.
Yeah. The Beric, the 2-point attachment as well really charges him up. Lets him roll 9 attack dice. That's crazy with his faith. Yeah.
That is true, but it comes back to the same situation that it's probably just 1 attack around.
Yeah.
And that's a 9-point unit. That's even worse, kind of. And your opponent will obviously avoid them.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next up, we have the Baratheon Halberdiers. Now, a relatively new unit for the Baratheons. It's probably about a year, I guess, so maybe not new, but definitely a nice-looking unit. How are they working with Brotherhood?
This was one of the first units I started playing with Caitlin. I think it's pretty awesome situation where Caitlin having horrific visage and everything, and the enemy unit is about to charge something else, and they say taunt, and your opponent really does want to charge this unit with Caitlin it, starting with the -4 or even a -5 panic test just to hit these guys with armor 3. And so that's also a very good tactical piece. Throw it somewhere, center objective or something like that. And of course, if you get the extra charge from Caitlin's card, 7 attacks with Sundering with rerolls is nothing to sniff at, even if they only hit at 4+. But yeah, I think the basic idea with these guys is that they'll keep their ranks, which keeps Caitlin's horrific visage scary all the time. And the taunt is once again great synergy with these abilities. And once again, this faction being, I think, equally good as Greyjoys for healing.
Yeah, and I think as well, you mentioned the fact they hit on 4s, but the price of failure, or you hit with everything with Sundering, that's a problem that the opponent has to react to, because that's a lot of dice with a diminishing armor save. That's not a nice day.
Indeed.
Okay, cool. So then we move on to the Stag Knights. So Stag Knights, I'm not seeing these played too much at the minute, but are these seen playing Brotherhood then?
Yeah, I think if you go to stats and look at the games that Caitlin Commander has won, it's very often with these guys. Why? Because they get vicious. Is it round 4? So that's again a good combination. And the second thing is, once again, horrific visage. With the resilience, these guys will keep the ranks.
Yeah.
And I think whenever you see these guys in the field, you need to kill them very, very fast. Because if the game goes on round 4, round 5, you don't want to be anywhere near them. And with Caitlin in them, it's double so or triple so. You really don't want to be anywhere near them. So I think it's a very good bunker for Caitlin.
Yeah, I think as well, because again, when I spoke to Belisarius about Stag Knights, it's nice to see them used, because we mentioned that the newer sculpts are the nicer sculpts, but actually I think the Stag Knight sculpts really have stood the test of time. They haven't
Indeed.
got these really unwieldy looking hammers. They're just very small, damage dealing battle hammers, and it's nice that people can get them on the tabletop regardless of the faction.
Good dynamic poses.
Really nice. Cool. Okay, and then I think finally for our breath units, we've got the Relaunch Lightbringers. So I know you wanted to speak about one specific synergy with these guys, which is filthy. But do you want to tell us?
Yeah, well, first of all, they are one of the best 6-point shooting units. Armor 4 makes them quite resilient. And once again, I would put Caitlyn in there to so that the opponent must think twice before charging at these guys with Caitlyn in there. And of course, yeah, it's a potential unit to destroy enemies with lower moral stats. And of course, shooting is pretty good in this game. You have several armies which don't like being shot at, like Greyjoys, Martells, which are very strong factions but really don't like to be shot at, or even other Brotherhood armies. Peasants don't like to be shot at. They have armor 6. And with the vicious shot, they'll probably be taking some panic damage too.
Yeah, I mean, Lightbringers are an amazing 6-point range unit. When I play Baratheons, I'm almost always taking them. And obviously with what's Caitlyn's card that lets them shoot with destroyed rank? That's one of their synergies, right?
Yeah, the Vengeance in Blood.
That's it. Yeah. So getting extra shots, extra vicious shots is nice.
Yeah, I think you either play Caitlyn in a rather defensive unit to keep the ranks up, like we saw with Stag Knights or with Halberdiers, also with Umber Greataxes, or you play her in a shooting unit, which can be either the Brotherhood the own archers or these guys.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's really nice insight there on some of the factions. Again, some really nice units and really nice sculpts. If you're looking to start the game and you want to play the Brotherhood, these are some really nice units to really mix up some of that painting, that hobby stuff for you.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, that's into the units now. So we're going to head into the attachments. So first up on screen, we have Beric, Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, and Lemoncloak. I'll quickly read over their rules and hand over to you for some deep diving on it. So Beric, 2 points. Thoros, 2 points. Beric comes with Lightbringer. So Beric begins the game with 1 faith token. Each time his unit passes a morale test, it gains 1 faith token. Faith tokens may be expended to do the following. So either when this unit performs a melee attack before resolving that attack, the attack gains +2 attack dice. Or when this unit would be destroyed by a melee attack, before being removed, this unit performs 1 melee attack using its lowest attack die value. If this attack destroys the defender, this unit is not destroyed but remains in play with 1 wound. Then we have Thoros of Myr, Faithful Believer. He comes with reinforcement, so each time this unit activates, it restores 1 wound. If you control the crowns, restore +1 wound. And he comes with Relentless, so after this unit is attacked, this unit may perform 1 melee attack action. And finally on screen, Lemoncloak the Lemon, proving that you can get the word lemon into your title as many times as you like, as long as you're willing. And he comes with a battle scars. So each time this unit performs a melee attack, before rolling attack dice, choose 1. For each destroyed rank in this unit, choose +1. So vicious, reroll any attack dice, and roll your highest attack die value. So 3 really nice looking attachments there. Battle scars 1 point is always really good, but some 2 2-point attachments there, Teemu. Do you want to take us through each one at a time and maybe what they add to the army and what units you might be putting them in?
Sure. I guess Season 6 has really changed the game for the first 2 because they are 2 points. And obviously, before Season 6, you very rarely saw any 2-point attachments. Beric Dondarrion like you said, on paper, great with the Kingsmen. But yeah, then your opponent will probably just avoid you. And I think the trick is that you're not allowed to play Beric in the same list as with Caitlyn. So as Caitlyn and Beric are clearly the better commanders, and now we can't use neutral commanders anymore, I think you really rarely see this guy on competitive lists, at least.
Yeah.
At least. But yeah, on paper, good. In reality, you don't see much of him. Thoros, 2-point attachments. I've played him even before season 2. You can have a Beric list, Beric commander. You can have Thoros, and then you can even have Edric in the same unit as Thoros, and that creates quite a combo because Edric has Vassal for Beric, so you can charge in with Assault Orders. You attack the enemy, and you're stuck in. And does your enemy want to strike you back? Let's say you are in Kingsman or some other hard-hitting unit because you have Relentless. So I think this creates a situation for your opponent that is really, really challenging. And also, he brings more healing with reinforcements. So pretty good combo with or without Edric, but even better with Edric. Because once again, both of these 2-point attachments, if you're playing against a good opponent who avoids them or does not stay stuck with these guys, then they are kind of hard to win back the points they cost. Battle Scars, always good. I would put him in the Men-at-Arms because they always have critical blow. So you really want to have rerolls. And then, of course, they don't have the best attack profile. So highest attack value, of course, even if you've lost a rank, is always good against certain opponents. Wishes, why not? So yeah, Battle Scars is always worth 1 point.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. The so with Thoros, then just going back to Forest, what sort of units? So you mentioned Kingsmen, but what other units do you think you're likely to be putting him in?
Yeah, I've tried him with dervishes, but then it's kind of counterproductive because they can retreat after they strike. But yeah, then I would have Edric there as well for the healing from regroup. Any sort of a hard-hitting enough unit could be, for example, the Berserkers we discussed in the beginning. So, the enemy strikes a rank away from Berserkers, making them even scarier, and immediately they strike back with Relentless. Though, that could be a good example.
Nice. Okay, cool. We'll get into the next 3 attachments. So we've got Tom Sevenstrings. So these are a 1-point attachment for Tom Sevenstrings, 07s. He comes with the order Taunt. So when an enemy in long range activates, if that enemy could attack or charge this unit and declares any action other than attack or charge that targets this unit this turn, before performing that action, that enemy becomes vulnerable and weakened. And we have a 2-point Anguy, the Archer, who comes with the order Swift Retreat. So after an enemy completes a melee attack on this unit performs 1 retreat action, and he comes with outflank. So you may hold this unit off the table in reserve instead of deploying it. At the start of any round, if you are not the first player, you may place 1 unit from reserve fully within short range of a friendly or flank table edge unactivated. And then finally on screen we have 1-point Edric Dane, Loyal Squire, which you've already alluded to. We have Beric's Vassal. So this unit counts as Beric Dondarrion for all abilities and effects. And regroup after completing a retreat action. This unit restores 2 wounds plus 1 wound for each of its destroyed ranks. And just the text on the bottom of the card as well. Edric Dane may be included in a unit containing Thoros of Myr, ignoring the usual attachment restrictions. Obviously,
exactly.
it's a bit more powerful with obviously Beric Commander, but you can put him in the same unit as Forest Commander or Forest Attachment. But yeah, do you want to go through these attachments with us?
Yeah, sure. Well, we already discussed taunt with the Baratheon Halberdiers. So I think Tom Sevenstrings I would put into the peasants. As we discussed before, you want to bait your enemies charging into them because they are the target. And for example, it could be that the enemy would be rather be charging, let's say, your archers, who are quite fragile, or they would be charging one of your key units in the flank. And then, taunt is really good because then they'll become weakened and vulnerable. Also, with the current, like the community FAQ is saying that if you taunt a cavalry unit and they do the free maneuver, they already get these tokens. So they need to, charge up right away without the freeman, probably making the charge much more difficult. So with these rulings and since taunt was changed to what it is nowadays, few patches ago, I think it's pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to sniff at one point, with having 5 points to spend on attachment. Why not?
Yeah.
Anguy is the only model I have not painted. That, I guess, is telling a story already. 2 points for these abilities is a hard sell. We do not have very good units, like at least in the faction internal units to put into outflank, really.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are survivable enough or threatening enough to really be good at that. I might be using them in the Golden Company crossbows. That could be maybe be the only unit that I could think of that it could work. But that's a tricky bit to do well, as outflank always is. I see people using it a lot more nowadays, but you can really make a big mistake with outflank too.
Mm.
So not the perfect combo for 2 points, I would say.
It can
Then
be a trap
Edric,
outflank, right? I think
yeah,
a lot of people want to put a unit outflank because they feel it's a really cool like a really big move. But I think if you're against the wrong faction or the wrong player that really understands how outflank works, it can be tricky to get one up on them with outflank.
Yeah, absolutely. I quite often play outflank. I have many units in other factions that are good for it. Then I typically place stakes or palisades in one of the game modes, where you have 3 objectives in the center line. And then you cover with one of the flank objectives with stakes or palisades. Then you just, you deploy more or less almost onto one of the objectives.
Mm.
And that's a good move. And another good thing with outflank is that it's a mind game. It impacts deployment. So good players know how to deploy and how to use terrain to diminish the effect of outflank. And that is all kind of already a win.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep the outflank unit as your last deployment choice, which means that the opponent needs to prepare for outflank, and then you don't. And then you're like, haha, trick you.
Yeah.
But it's a bit tricky. And I don't want to spend 2 points for this outflank because I have plenty of good use for the free attachment points without him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Edric, we had a good discussion that is he a risk with in a Beric list, or is he good in a Beric list? I think he's definitely good because once again, mind games.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 units that can charge from assault orders. The only thing, and that's one of our, I think probably our biggest nemesis is Oberon Commander from Martels and I think some other commanders have intercept orders too. Maybe Tyrion from Lannister has it too. And you might have aligned your Kingsmen with Beric into a perfect assault orders position, and then you get intercept orders. And as you are able to do it with Edric, and maybe they're not in such a good position, that could spoil your plan. But pros and cons, I like him. Regroup is also an excellent ability. Then there's one silly combination with Beric 2-point attachment and Thoros commander or Thoros attachment. But let's not go into that because it's too stupid anyway. But we can come back to that in the deep dive.
Awesome. So
this is a cliffhanger right there.
So okay, right. Who's going to win in a fight though? Edric Dane and in Martell's or Edric Dane in Brotherhood?
That's a good question. They're pretty excellent in both. I think Edric in Brotherhood would win because he also brings more healing, and the unit that Edric is in will probably not die because they are being healed, and if they get into trouble, they can retreat and heal more.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's get into our last two attachments, and one of these is one of my favourite attachments because I love the character in the fluff, and I think his rules are pretty sweet as well. So we have Hot Pie, the baker, who brings hot pies for 1 point. Each time this unit activates, it removes 1 condition token. If you control the crowns, this unit may restore 1 wound. And my favourite attachment is Gendry for 2 points, the bull, with all the resilience. So when an enemy is performing an attack on this unit, after attack dice are rolled, this unit only suffers 1 wound for every 2 unblocked hits, and also improved defences. So while you control the crowns, this unit gains +1 to defence dice rolls. The Gendry model, Teemu, is absolutely amazing. I love it. I love the model. But what do you think of these two attachments?
I love them. Hot Pie is the best ranked attachment for Brotherhood. His obvious place is in any long range unit, whom are typically getting those weakened tokens by default. So just activate and remove the weakened token and fire away. Great synergy there as well. Also, once again, both of these attachments bring more synergy with the crowns, which is a thing which really defines, that's a one defining thing for this faction, that the crown play.
Yeah.
And that's why Thoros is our best NCU, because he has a replaceability. And guess which zone he will take to replace?
Horses?
Crowns. Surprise! Gendry is the 7th best, or second worst attachment we can take. Only Anguy, the archer we just discussed, is worse, which I absolutely don't agree, because he's very good. Like I said before, put him in peasants to create the absolute nightmare tar pit for your enemy. They don't die on lance charge. They can hold on any 7-point unit, 8-point with an attachment, or any 8-point cavalry unit in place for quite a while. So yeah, Gendry bringing these very, very defensive abilities is very good on peasants, and also very good on your ranged units. I've seen him in the Brotherhood Archers. I've seen him in the Cone Company crossbows, because very often it is this archery duel, long range duel. And winning that can be a decisive factor in a game. If you can delete the enemy long range unit, then the enemy must come to you. And Brotherhood is a very good faction to invite the enemy into our tar pits and then retaliate really, really hard hitting units like Lance Cavalry, like Knights, like Kingsmen, like Berserkers, and so forth. So it's really important to win the archery duel. Of course, we have a lot of a lot of units with armor 6 up. So that's why it's also critical to win the archery duel. And he facilitates that very well.
Do you think with the additional points now, obviously, we see we're at the end of the attachments now. I think what's really apparent for Brotherhood is that we've got lots of nice attachments we can use. Do you think the additional points for attachment will see us see Gendry used more now, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's always at least in one of my lists. Set up the 2-list combo.
That's awesome. Okay, lovely. Well, let's get stuck into the commanders then.
Sure.
So first and foremost, we have Beric Dondarrion, the commander. So what we're going to do, Teemu, is we're going to go through these. There's only 3 commanders we're going to go through because it's relatively new faction. We're going to go through them, talk about their play style. We're going to reference the cards. But if you're happy and you're enjoying our conversations, we're going to get you back in at another time to go into the tactics depth in a far deeper dive, because I think all tactics decks are worth going into in more detail, but I think specifically the Brotherhood have got a lot of cards that only they have that I think are really nice to really deep dive into and look at some of the synergies. So we'll crack on with Beric Dondarrion Commander. So as a Lightning Lord, he comes with the Order Sentinel. So after another friendly unit in long range is attacked, this unit performs 1 charge or maneuver action. If charging, it must target the attacker. He has duties of the crown. So each time this unit passes a morale test, it restores 1 wound. And if you control the crowns, you restore +1 wound. And Pathfinder. So this unit ignores dangerous, hindering, and rough keywords. The 3 tactics cards he has on screen are Assault Orders, 6 times too many, and Lightbringer. Now, obviously, Tim, when we talk about Brotherhood, the name that comes up most is Beric, because Beric is such a quality character in the TV show, in most of the books, in the TV show as well, when he loses his eye and gets stabbed up by the mountain. But Beric Dondarrion Commander, what is his play style? Are you using him? How do you feel about him?
Like I think we said earlier a little bit before, I think he's a little bit too good. First of all, he has 3 abilities. Not all commanders have 3 abilities, and all of these 3 abilities are really, really good. So I would consider him to be like, if he would be an attachment, he would be a 3-point attachment, no problem. And I would pay it. But the biggest and most important combo here is that, like we discussed with the Kingsman, it's too expensive. 7-point infantry units are too expensive almost by default. And then the question is that, will you get their value back? And in order to get the value back, they need to be killing stuff all the time. And there's nobody else doing it better with Beric, because he has both Sentinel and Assault Orders. So it's quite easy to get, 2 attacks or 2 charges in a round for him. And combined with such a crazy unit as Kingsman, that just outrageous value. So that's the obvious synergy there, and he really delivers value out of these high point cost units, and that's maybe it's a bit of a problematic. The second thing that is there is that this faction is very good at healing. Kingsman up to the last, and guess what? Beric brings 1 more way to stay alive, and that's just over the top. The only problem is that if this card comes up too early in your hand, then you have Ravel and you use it for 2 points of healing early in the game. Also, one typical mistake that is made with this card is that you forget it's only from a melee attack, which is at the same time kind of highlighting that one of our weaknesses is a lot of shooting against us. And this being one example that it doesn't work on shooting. Or another thing, Thoros is an absolutely great NCU, but you need to destroy enemy ranks, and that means there needs to be melee typically, or good shooting. But yeah, he's crazy good. Lightbringer, I typically discard or use for Raila. And that's why Raila is such a good NCU, because you get through your deck really fast. But yeah, Beric is, well, I think he's probably like one of the top 3 commanders in the whole game. Who else is there? There's Queen of Dragons or Mother of Dragons, Daenerys Targaryen.
Hmm.
I don't remember who else, but he's definitely high up there.
Yeah. So would you say he's definitely an aggressive commander for Brotherhood?
He is, but he can play the other role too, with Duty to the Crown and Pathfinder. Very typical setup is that you put down stakes, dangerous terrain on a center objective, and then you go there and sit there, keep scoring points, and wait for the enemy to get frustrated, and if they come too close, you charge out and you start killing stuff.
Awesome.
So I think with Beric you can create a situation for your opponent, and the knights help a lot too, that you go to the objectives and you start winning the game, and then the enemy needs to be aggressive, but you don't have a problem with aggression because of all the healing and with these cards and these abilities from Beric. So it's really hard for the opponent to win this combo.
I like to think the Pathfinder ability represents him running over stakes and losing limbs and stuff and get back up again.
Yeah, I think this is a good example of the ambush thematic that I spoke early in the beginning. That you know, they don't mind the terrain. They're coming through the box and through the stakes and what have you, and keep on going and keep getting those rerolls.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Okay, so massive thumbs up then for Beric.
Sure.
Next up, we have Thoros Commander. So we haven't really heard you talk loads about Thoros Commander, so it'd be nice to hear about what you say on this one. So the Red Wizard, he comes with 1 ability, Prayers to Relaunch. So this unit gains +2 to morale test rolls and begins the game with 1 faith token. Each time it passes a morale test, it gains 1 faith token. Faith tokens may be expended to do the following. When this unit performs a melee attack before resolving that attack, this attack gains Sundering and Vicious. And when an enemy in long range fails a panic test, target 1 friendly unit in long range of this unit. For each wound the enemy suffered from this test, restore 1 wound to that friendly unit up to 3. And he comes with Fiery Charge, Loved by the Small Folk, and The Last Kiss. So a really, really cool character. And for those that have read the books, you know, we hear Robert Baratheon talk about him fondly, about going through the breach when attacking the Greyjoys. And I think Forrest is such a great character. If you like drinking and running at people, he's your man.
He's really good character. Yes, he's a very bad commander, though. Of course, or other way to say it, Beric and Caitlyn outshine him badly. And of course, I have his NCU practically in every list, so it's too big a cost to use him as a commander. And the 2-point attachment isn't bad either. So all the other options are so much better. So of course, you know, Fiery Charge is pretty okay. Loved by the Small Folk, I don't even remember what it does because it's such a useless card. The Last Kiss, yeah, you have good attachment. It's lovely to keep Gendry alive, but this is maybe an area where I would, if I would go and play fluff, you know, I would take those Rillor fanatics from Baratheons and put him in there to get the double fate tokens from all the model tests, but that's really not an area I've explored. I played maybe 1 or 2 games with him ever, and I played like 50 games with Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see him.
Okay, cool. But it's definitely you know, the ability there to build a faith-based Brotherhood list with a bit of graphic.
Yeah. The thing is that, okay, you get Sundering and Vicious, and who would you place him into? Kingsmen, they already have Sundering. Your own Men-at-Arms, they already have Sundering. So you would be taking some Baratheon unit. Well, of course, you would maybe taking those Reload Fanatics. They don't have Sundering, but I think yeah, that would be a nice combo. They are also 6-inch move, and with Fiery Charge they get a 12-inch auto in charge, but they die very fast. So, but yeah, this is definitely an area to explore, and I would expect that in the next patch or the one after that, Beric will be toned down and Thoros will probably be toned up, because that's typically what they do, that if there is a really strong NCU in the game and the same character has like on-field attachment. A good example being the guy from Renly Loyalty, what's his name? The loyal Castellan.
Courtney Penrose?
Courtney Penrose. His NCU is so good that they've kept improving his commander and the 2-point attachment, except now with the Might of the Throne being toned down a bit. But I think that's what's going to happen. This guy needs to be improved, because now his NCU version is totally outshining him.
Okay, cool. Now let's get into one of the characters we haven't seen yet. We have Caitlin Stark, Lady Stoneheart, on screen. So she comes with Horrific Visage and Intimidating Presence, both of which you've been speaking about during this episode. Horrific Visage for new people is each time an enemy performs a melee attack on this unit before resolving an attack, target the attacker. They suffer 1 panic test with -1 to their roll for each remaining rank in this unit. An Intimidating Presence, so each enemies engaged with this unit suffer -1 to morale test rolls and +1 wound from failing panic tests. So obviously, Intimidating Presence does stack with Horrific Visage, so it makes it a really epic defense ability. And she comes with Lash Out, Price of Failure, and Vengeance in Blood. Incredible model, incredible character and a fluff. What are we saying about Lady Stoneheart as a commander?
She was my go-to commander first, and then everybody started talking about Beric and telling me, Teemu, what are you doing? Why are you playing Caitlin? Beric is so good. They're both very, very good. I think with Caitlin, she's very much a psychological weapon, both her attachment and then, of course, the risk of Lash Out, which once again works very well with peasants too. I think the trick to really play Caitlin well is not to go straight ahead and let the enemy charge you, because we have so many autopass moral cards in the game in different factions. So that could go really south for you. So instead, I would try to position Caitlin on a flank charge position and wait for the enemy to destroy a rank. And of course, then I would have Vengeance in Blood in my hand. So Caitlin would go in, strike the enemy, and then it's my turn. And that is a terrifying combo. Definitely put her in a unit with Vicious. Like we discussed, that's why the House Umber Greataxes were on the list. That's why Stag Knights were in the list for Caitlin.
Yeah.
And we discussed Price of Failure and Lance Cavalry, so no need to repeat that. I really like her.
Yeah. When we get to Tactics deck, I think we're going to really have a good conversation about this, because I think Lash Out is such a great card as well. I think,
there's so many solo models with 3 or war wounds that it's a great card.
Yeah, definitely.
And giants and dragons.
Everyone's scared of auto wounds, even me.
Yeps.
Cool. Okay, rest of the commanders done. So next up we have the NCU. So up on screen we have 2 4-point NCUs from the start set. We have the Ghost of Highheart, who comes with Prophecies and Portents. So she's Influence NCU. So when this unit claims a zone, attach this card to a combat unit until the end of the round. So while influencing a unit, that unit gains +1 to morale test rolls. Each time a rank in that unit is destroyed, one enemy they're engaged becomes vulnerable and weakened, so they get both tokens for destroying a rank.
Yes.
And Ravella Smallwood, Lady of Acorn Hall, comes with allies in the realm. Again, another 4-point NCU. Ravella begins the game with 3 order tokens on her. At the start of a friendly turn, you may discard 1 order token and 1 tactics card. If you do, restore 2 wounds to 1 friendly combat unit. If that unit has only 1 remaining rank, also remove 1 condition token from them. 2 really nice NCUs, Teemu. What are we saying?
Indeed. Yeah, the more you play, the more you love them. I think, like I said, Ravella, the first impression was like that. We have a really good deck. Do we want to burn our cards to get that healing? But then when you start understanding the dynamics of this faction, where we've been discussing grinding quite a bit, and she facilitates grinding with your 3 armor units, or, quite often I find myself healing peasants with her, because they are also a real annoyance and keeping the more expensive enemy units in place, in check, engaged. And yeah, Ravella really facilitates the grinding, really brings in critical 6 wounds of healing. If you compare her with, for example, with the banker, who gives 5 wounds burst heal, she heals 6.
Yeah.
And costs 1 point less. And the other synergy with her is that I think, and we'll come back to this when we discuss the deck, but there are certain cards you want to find from your deck, of course, like, Assault Orders. So she also facilitates going through your deck faster, because you can instead of, discarding cards in the end of the round, rather heal your armor 3 units during the round. Who doesn't like that? So I think that's like a double synergy there. Really good. Then Ghost of Highheart, I think I really understood her value in a game a while back when somebody was playing Chuck and Hagar against me, and he was copying Ghost, and I was like, what the hell is going on? This is awful. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're copying my NCU. So now I know how you feel. But one of the greatest synergies is obviously with Beric again, with this +1 morale, facilitating his healing from the model tests. So there are these subtle synergies all over the place, in the deck, in the NCUs, and that used in a perfect combination is a winning combo for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't put out that much tokens, so the Ghost is really good for that. So both really strong.
So 2 really nice 4-point NCUs from the starter set there. Now, there's always, every faction has got an NCU that's really good from the starter box, right? For Free Folk, it's Lady Val, Illyrium Apartis, mostly for Targaryens. He's been tweaked a little bit now, but Sansa for Starks. So let me take you 3 years down the line. Which one are we going to say is the one that kept its value all through the seasons? Which one do you think is going to be most valuable for newer players out of these 2?
Out of these 2?
Yeah.
For new players, Ravella is of course easier. With Ghost, you need to know where to put her. You need to understand the game state. You need to understand which is the unit your opponent will attack, either by shooting or by other means. So that takes a bit more skill, not too much, but anyway. I guess in the early rounds, Ghost doesn't necessarily do that much. There's no combat yet. But yeah, they are both really, really strong. Ravella is once again, like I said in the beginning, this is a forgiving faction, and Ravella is a big part of that. Because you have this like 6 wound buffer, you can really rapidly heal up, and that's a big help. Quite often I do find myself in a situation that oh damn, I have assault orders, the only card left in my hand, and I would really need to heal 2 wounds with Ravella, and then it's time for some hard decisions. But yeah, like I said, with Brotherhood, I quite often get through my whole deck in a game, which is telling a lot about the deck, but Ravella plays a big role in that.
Yeah.
So typically, in the end of the round, your card hand should be empty.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is telling something.
Yeah, awesome. That's the thing about card games. People want to be able to play their cards. If you can play your whole deck, you're definitely on the right track, right?
Yeah, and I see it a lot with the new players. The biggest learning curve is to use the cards and which ones to hold on to, which ones to discard, and that's a learning curve.
Yeah, that's the problem I'm having with just to go off route a little bit here, but that's the problem I'm having with Greyjoys at the minute, is knowing the whole deck's really good and going, but I need something else. Roger Harlow's really good for that, but
yeah, then Roderick solves your problem for sure.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so into the last 2 NCUs. So we have Catelyn Stark, the Hangwoman. So she comes with Vengeance. So this is both 4-point NCUs. She comes with Vengeance at any cost. So Influence. When this unit claims a zone, attach this card to a combat unit until the end of the round. While influencing an enemy combat unit, each time this unit performs an action, before resolving the action, this unit suffers 1 wound. And friendly combat units may reroll any attack dice when performing melee attacks against this unit. And the text at the bottom of the card, Teemu, you've obviously alluded to this quite a few times now, but Catelyn and Beric can't be in the same army, regardless of what type. They just can't be in the same army together.
Great example of incorporating the fluff into the rules.
Yeah. And Thoros of Myr, the Umber. So fresh converts. Each time a rank in an enemy combat unit is destroyed, place 1 order token on Thoros. Each time Thoros claims a zone, you may replace that zone's effect with restore up to 2 wounds to 1 friendly combat unit. Then you may remove up to 2 order tokens from Thoros. If you do, for each token removed, restore 1 wound to 1 friendly combat unit. Again, 2 great characters in the book, but how do they play as NCUs?
Well, we have one of them being the worst rated and one of them being the best rated NCU. Well, let's start with Catelyn being the worst rated NCU. We have the only one with the negative ELO ranking. I think she's not bad as the NCU. Why she's negative ELO is that you cannot play Beric Commander, and obviously you can't play Catelyn Commander. So now without the neutral commanders, you're left with Thoros Commander, which means he's a bad commander and you can't play his NCU. So that is the reason why Catelyn ELO ranking is low. She's a tech piece. Great tech piece for against units, against armies with heavy cavalry, who will start immediately taking chip damage, or it hinders them from moving full speed ahead. Many times I played against, let's say, Tully Cavaliers and other 3-up armor cavalry units, and I typically see my opponent really slowing down, not doing the free maneuver at all, for example, which is really, really, really bad for them. Also, she's very good against all of these, small solo things like Varamir's pets and all these kinds of things. So definitely a good tech piece. Does not make my tournament list, but if I know I'll be playing against free folk, then yeah, she'll be in one of the lists. And at least used to be when we were able still to use the neutral commanders. The fact that you can also reroll attack dice against the unit she's influencing is also very valuable. Thinking of units like the men-at-arms, who have the critical blow, so really benefit from always having rerolls. And of course, whatever shape or form of Caitlyn you play, you can reroll your charges against all Lannister and Bolton units, which is also pretty strong. I quite often forget that, but that's a value too. So that's also a good reason to bring her.
Yeah.
Thoros, extremely good. Heals better than anything else in the game. Very typically, I end up in a situation that I have so many tokens on him that he won't be able to use all of them by the end of the game. That's the typical situation, which is of course telling that the game is going pretty okay. And the trick is to remember to monitor the game. Let's say Greyjoys, they are playing their own things, taking away their own wounds, and possibly removing a rank. And then Thoros gets a token. But if you are not like really monitoring the game, you might easily miss this. And like I said a bit earlier, we need to control the crown, or we at least need to make sure the opponent doesn't. And for that, you certainly want to have a replace effect NCU, and he's perfect for the job. So this again is one of the examples of even more synergy in the faction. Nobody wants the crowns really, except maybe Lannisters and Baratheons and us, but typically nobody wants the effect from the crown zone. So that's why you have the replace effect NCUs, like you mentioned, Lady Val, are really, really good, and Thoros is extremely good.
Definitely. Okay, cool. Well, that's all the stuff. What we'll do just quickly is on screen. I'm going to put the Unending Vengeance card up just to go over that quickly for people as well. So I'll put it on screen now. So it says that if Catelyn Stark is basically included in your army may not include the following faction units, attachments, or characters. So no House Bolton, faction or neutral, Dreadfort Captain, Bolton Flayer, Roose Bolton, Ramsay Snow, and Walder Frey. Friendly combat units may reroll any charge distance dice when performing charge actions against the units listed above. Units containing above listed attachments or House Lannister units. Just for completion, people can see that on screen now. But
sure,
it makes her quite. I find the same thing. What you mentioned a moment ago is that most people forget the rerolls, but it's a nice little fluffy choice, and it does make them a little bit better against those factions, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess people were complaining quite a bit that did Boltons really need this extra negative effect.
Yeah.
So not really, but of course, once again, the fluff, the rule of cool, really nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that is the entire faction covered. Obviously, quite a young faction in a minute. I'm sure next time we get you on to do the season 7 faction deep dive, hope we have some more units for us to talk about there. But just before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening, so just a bit over the season 6 changes. So, do you feel that the fact that we can't use neutral commanders, the restriction on neutral commanders now on other factions, obviously, I feel like it's going to be over here, but do you think it changes things for Brotherhood Without Banners? Do you think it makes a massive impact for these?
Not massive, but as it kind of leaves us with 2 commander choices, I think the impact is bigger than with more mature factions who have plenty of choice and plenty of commanders, to have a nice toolkit. I used Wargok quite a bit. I really like choking commander, and with this faction, as with a couple of other ones, if you play choking, you have 4 autopath model test tactics cards in your deck, and that is really strong in many game modes like Feast for Crows or other game modes where you drop the objective when you fail the panic test. So of course neutral units and neutral commanders were a great way to flesh out the new factions when they came out. And same is very much true here. It was, of course, silly that the Boltons were not allowed to use neutrals when they first came out, but that's been fixed since. But yeah, I think with these, what are they called, mini factions, it obviously hurts quite a lot more than the fully fleshed out factions. So yes, is my answer.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get another Heroes box soon, and it'll help us sort of flesh out a bit more, give it more commander choice. Fingers crossed.
I'm afraid don't get your hopes too high for getting it fast, because we haven't seen a second hero box for Boltons either.
Yeah, but they're Boltons, so they don't get anything nice today.
Of course, this was a great idea, being able to take one Baratheon or one Stark unit, which kind of fleshed out the faction from the get-go. And I ran these campaigns for Song at our club, been doing that for years. And the latest campaign we did was the first campaign we had Brotherhood as one of the factions. We implemented a campaign rule that the Boltons were able to take either one Lannister unit or one Stark unit, and it made them a lot better. And I think it was totally a fluff rule too, so nobody had anything against them. Well, still they didn't win the campaign, but I think it leveled the playfield quite a lot. So I would hope they implement that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. No,
I think Boltons need something more urgently than Brotherhood, because we already have 25 different units to choose from, so that's plenty.
Definitely. Okay, cool. Well, it just basically leads on to your final thoughts then. So, Brotherhood Without Banners in season 6, we sort of spoke about it briefly at the beginning. So are we feeling that going into season 6 for newer players and more experienced players, Brotherhood Without Banners still in a very strong position, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Not a minor detail of the fact that we still get one free neutral attachment too, because nobody else does except neutrals. So now choosing a neutral attachment will be a big ask, because you find it hard to even use the 4 points of your own attachment. So that's I think everybody was expecting, at least in my circle of players, that we would have lost that, but we didn't. I guess they never change much of anything of such a new faction. But let's see what happens in mid-season patch.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, man. Well, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate you sitting down and talking to me for 2 hours. I'm sure that everyone that listens into the show is going to appreciate some of your insight into it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, mate, it's been a great chat. I really enjoyed it. For people that have listened to the video that enjoy what we do, please do like the video. Do share it among your friends if you found it helpful. And if you like us enough that you want to help a bit more, do subscribe to the channel. It helps us get the algorithms in our favour when it comes to sharing content. And also do check out Teemu's blog, 25 Years of Minis. I'll put a link in the description below so you can all go and check that out. Great blog. And massive thanks again, Teemu, for your time, and thanks for everything you do for the community, even outside of Finland. So thank you so much.
So happy to do it. This is, like I said, the best game I ever played, and it's a job of passion for sure.
Awesome. We'll get you back in soon for the faction with the tactics deep dive, and we'll get back into it.
Absolutely.
Cheers, man. You take care.
Yeah, you too. Cheers.